Okay, now sharing a resource in multiple threads, how will you do? Somewhere we have seen example, I think. So this is class A, and I'll take one more test. This is class A. In A class I have two methods, show and disp, right? Show and disp. Now assume I have two thread, class A thread extends thread, right? One thread, and this is B thread. And inside this run method, and this also have run method, this also have run method, and in this what I want is the first thread, A thread task is call the show method from A, class A, okay? A thread task is to call the show method, and B thread task is called the disp method, right? But before that you say like this, in the main method I have A1 is equal to new A, and A1 dot show and A1 dot disp, right? A1 dot disp. Now what happens is this show and disp are the actions, and that should be applied when you say A1 is pointing to an object, and object is this. The address is say 1040 something. It is pointing here, right? And when you will say A1 dot show, it means show is action applied on this. Show is applied here on this object. If I say A1 dot disp, means disp is applied on this object, right? Show is an action applied on this object. Disp is an action applied on this object. On same object you are applying show and disp. But if I write it like this, say disp is not here. If I take one more, say A2 new A and A2 dot disp, A2 dot disp, like this, then what is the meaning? Say it is not this one, it is not this one, it is this one. It means create another object, and object is A2 reference variable pointing to this object. Object is say 1060, this is 1060, and here you are applying disp, not at this point, right? On two different objects you are applying, one is show and one is disp. But what is my requirement is, I want to apply both disp and show on the same object, okay? On the same object I want to apply, and that has to be applied by the thread. It is not like this. Thread has to do that at the same time. Why thread has to do that? Because it should be at the same time. If I write like this, then which thread will apply this action on the A1 object? Main thread. Main thread will do that. And because inside the show it is one by one, main thread starts, main method starts, then show will be completed, then disp will be completed. I don't want like this. I want A object should have this show and disp at the same time, concurrently. Then this should be done by the thread. Two thread, you assign these two tasks to two different thread and tell that, okay, apply this show and disp on A1 object. Two different thread has to do that. It is not in the main thread should not do that, okay? If main thread is doing like this, then it will be one by one, not together. If you want together, then you have to assign these two tasks to two different thread, right? So it is not in this way. Now what we are doing, inside the thread I am doing that. So here A1 new A and A1 dot show, and in this also A1 and new A, and this is A1 dot disp, A1 dot disp. Now in this you create a thread, ATH and new a thread, and BTH new B thread, right? It is this. And after that you have to say ATH dot start and BTH dot start. Run it. It is working fine, no problem. Both will run concurrently, right? And you have to say sleep for some time. So try, catch, and exception e dot print stack trace something, and inside that thread dot sleep for 500 milliseconds. Right, it is this. So this is try and catch. Now here also it should be, and this is disp and this is show. Run it. Disp and show, both the thread 0 and thread 1 working together, right? Working together on the same object. Is it on the same object? It is not actually on the same object, right? And what I want it should be on the same object. Both the threads should perform show and disp on the same object. Currently it is not in the same object. How it is working now? When I will say like this, this is ATH pointing to this thread object, and it is having 1010. This is 1010. One thread is created. Then BTH created. BTH is pointing to this object. Say 2020. This is 2020. Right. Now, when I will say ATH dot start, what will happen? This is start. You say here start, and this is also start. Then when I will say start, on this run method will run. Run method will start execution, and here also run method starts execution. And what you did inside the run, this is ATH run, this is BTH run. ATH run is A1 is a new local variable. This is A1 and pointing to this object. And on that you have said show, means show is applied on this show. Same thing B thread also did. B thread also created a new object A1, local variable A1 and pointing to this object. And this is, here is it applied disp. So it is not in the same object, it is in two different objects. But what you want? You want it should be on the same object. This should not be two different objects, it should be same object, right? And how you can prove that it is a different object? If I print, so this I will remove now. Say, in this if I print this, you know already this. Say here I am printing one tab space plus this. And here also I am printing one tab space plus this, right? This means current object address has to print. On which object the show is applied, on which object the disp is applied, that object address has to show. And if it is same object, then it should give same value. But run it, it is not same, it is different. Two different object. This is one object, this is another object, right? Two different object. One thread is applying disp in one object. Thread 0 is applying show on another object, not in the same object. It is completely on two different objects. What I want in the same object. Then what you have to do? You have to do something like this. Say, first only you create a object. First only you create A1 and pointing to this object. This object is 1040. This is 1040. And when you are creating ATH, this is ATH. ATH should have a reference variable for A1 which should point to the same object. Instead of creating a new object, it should have the same object. Even same, creating BTH, this is B thread. B thread also should have a same, and this also should point to the same object, right? Like this. Now in ATH run method, you say A1.show, which is actually applying on this object. And in this also run method, you say A1.disp. Now both A1 is same. This A1 and this A1, both is pointing to the same object. So this show will apply here, and this disp also will be applied here. Now this A is the resource that is sharing with A thread and sharing with B thread. Means you should not create like this. This is not okay. This is not okay. This is also not okay. Instead of that, what you have to do? In A thread only, you take one A1. In B thread only, not inside the run, somewhere you take one A1. This A1 and this A1, here also you should have a A1. And this is pointing to this object somewhere. This also should point to this. This also should point to same object. Right? Means inside the main method only you create A1. This A1 address you send to A thread. In main only you create an A1. This A1 only send into B thread. Means this statement you should not write. This statement you should not write. This disp is okay. This show is also okay. And where this A1 should be created now? A1 should be created inside the main thread. And that object address only should set into A thread and should set into B thread. Now how will you do that? Very easy option. What you can do? Here only you are creating A1, right? A1 is equal to new A. This is ready inside the main. And when you are creating here A thread, at that time you pass here as an argument A1. Here also you pass as an argument A1. And then here you need a constructor, A thread constructor with A1 argument, A argument. B thread you need a constructor with A argument. Right? And on that you can apply like this. Right? So this is what you want now. Instead of creating different object, it should be on the same object. Right? So this is now this diagram we are going to implement here now. So how will you do it? Check this. Create here one A1 first. A1 is new A. First one is ready. A1 is ready. Now when you are creating A thread here, you initialize. Pass here A1 as an argument. Here also you pass here A1 as an argument. Now in A thread and B thread, in both, you need a constructor. And constructor A thread, which is taking this A1 as an argument, right? A1 as an argument. Now what you have to do with that? If I just write like this, then this will not be accessible at this point, right? So here I initialize that as an instance variable. A1 is equal to null first time, instance variable, and in this dot A1 is equal to A1. Then A1 dot show. Fine. Same thing you have to do with B also. Here you take A1 is equal to null first time, create a B thread constructor, and you pass here A1, and this dot A1 is A1. Done. Now this statement is not required. Now object is shared according to this diagram, exactly same, right? Exactly same. And now in this, one is calling show and another is calling disp on the same object, because the object is actually shared. And now inside the here this value, and in disp also this value should be same. Okay, this value should be same. Now you run it and check. This value is same for both the thread, right? Thread 0 show on which object? On this object. Thread 1 disp on which object? On the same object. So now this diagram is exactly same perfectly. But the thing is, you have to notice here how we have shared the resource. First only we have created one object. First only we have created one A object, and this is stored somewhere in the main, centralized. When we are creating thread object, that A we have shared with the thread object. Where it will go? In A thread we have called this constructor. And when we create A thread object, this is A thread object. In that it has an instance variable. Instance variable is this. First time it is null. Instance variable is first time null. When you are calling this constructor, you are supplying A1 and it is coming into this. And from here it is storing into A1. From here it is actually going to this. A1 is ready. Now this dot A1 dot show. This A1 is actually this one. And it is this. Right? With A thread. In B thread what you are doing? The same A1 you are supplying. Same A1. And B thread also you have A1 instance variable. And it is this one. The value which you are supplying is for this one. This one only coming at this point. So this address 1040 should be here also 1040. This also should be 1040. This is sharing the resource in multiple threads. Through the constructor you have to share, and for this you have to declare this instance variable first. Okay, this is important. Instance variable you have to declare, resource has to be shared with the constructor, and here through the constructor you have to initialize that instance variable, and now you perform the action like this inside the run. This is sharing the resource, which is very important. Very till this you have to understand. Now I hope from this you are able to share any resource, right? You can share any resource with any object or something like this. Suppose I'll take one more example. Say you have another class. I'll take class test1, and this is package 9. Main method is required, and I have a class student class. In that it has SID, string type name, and string type email, and I have a constructor to initialize this. Say actually it should be here, and I take email also, and email is email, right? This, and or say I have one void save student method, save student, right? And another you have void delete student, something like this. Save student and delete student. Or you take in, normally you will not get this type of scenario, it will be till changed. So you take our previous example A only, and in this take A and two threads, A thread and B thread. So take class A thread extends thread, and in this you need to share the A, right? So A is a null value first instance variable, and create a constructor to initialize this A thread, create a constructor, and in this argument is A, and this is this dot A is A, and then override the run method, and in run method you have to specify a dot show, right? This is one thread is ready, which is using A, and the action is applied on A only, and the action is show. Same way, now assume on A only. So first I need, if I create a thread object, a thread ATH1 new A thread, and if you want to create the A thread, you need a object first, because the constructor is having A here. Now it is A1 new A, right? And in this A1, right? Now it is okay. Then two thread. I need two thread, and both the thread is this is B thread, assume B thread, and B thread also should apply show only on A. Both the thread has to apply show only on A. Both is show. This is show and this is also show. Then what you can do, this is okay, one thread, then B thread, BTH2 new B thread, right, by giving A1 only. Right, now ATH1 dot start and BTH1 dot start. BTH1 should be and start. Right, BTH1 dot start. Both the thread is using the same object. Action is also same. First one is showing show, and second one is also showing. Second one is also giving show only. Okay, both is show. Now you run it. Both is applying show, and this is also show. Thread 0, thread 1, both is show. Both is applying show 10 times. In show you have for loop. Show thread 0 on this object. Show 1 in thread 1. Show thread 0. Show thread 1. And object is same. This 0 and 1. 0, 1. 0, 2. These values are the for loop which you are running here. Okay. You see this? These values are the for loop. In for loop we are taking like this, right? And what is the execution diagram, we will see little later. Now, both the thread is applying show only on the same object. Now, do we actually need two thread class here? We don't need. It is not required. What you can do is, instead of creating this object here, instead of starting this one, what I can do, I can create one more A thread, ATH2, new A thread by using A1. Now, two thread is creating. Both the thread is using A1 and both the thread started. ATH2 dot start. ATH2 dot start. Two thread started of the same class. Both the thread is using A1 only and both the thread start. Because the action is same, so I don't need actually two class. Action is already specified in one class. Now create multiple objects of the same class only. Then multiple thread will apply the same action on the same object multiple times. Now run it. It is same. No difference. So in this case you don't need multiple thread class when the action is same. But assume thread 1 is applying show and thread 2 is applying disp. Then what you have to do? You have to go with two class. One is applying show and another is applying disp. One is applying show, another is applying disp, right? This is, now you have to go with two different thread class because the same task you cannot specify. So now it is not this and it is not this. Two thread is applying two different tasks on the same object. Then two thread class is required. Two thread is applying same task on the same object. Then only one thread class is required. But for that you create multiple objects and you just start. Now you run this, it is two different class, it is same. If two different thread is applying the same action on the same object, you don't need to define separate class. Okay, not separate class is required. One thread or class only you design and create multiple objects of the same class and start that. But two thread is applying different action on the same object, then you have to define two different class for this. Okay, two different class for this. And now we are sharing this A1 in multiple threads. This is sharing the A1. This is also sharing A1 if you create. This is also sharing A1 in all this, right? Or, okay, this is sharing the resource in these multiple threads. Now assume I have something like this. Resource is an integer type ARR, and this is new int or some 20 elements should be stored. Okay, this is the resource. And I need two thread to share this resource, and one should add the element in this and another should access the element. Two thread, one thread is adding the element in this and another thread is accessing the element from this. Currently, what is the array here? This array, how it will create? Currently the array is, this is ARR and it is pointing to this array object, right? This array object. Size is from 0 to 19. 0 to 19, and all the value gets default value. All is default values. So what I want is one thread has to start and one thread has to store 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like this till 19 or till 20 or till 20 assume. Then at the same time another thread also has to run and that thread has to access the element. Okay, that thread has to access the element. And then now resource is this array. Okay, resource is array. So what will you do? Take a thread, class, a thread, not a thread, C thread, extends thread. Now what are the instance variable you need? An instance variable should be int ARR assume, and this is first time null. Then take a constructor thread, constructor, and that should be initialized. Here it is int ARR, and in this you have to say this dot ARR is ARR initialized. This is first thread, and first thread task should be, it should store the element in this array. Some element has to be stored in this array, right? So run the for loop, run a method override, and in the run method, you run a for loop for int I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 20, and I plus plus, and it should say ARR of I is equal to I, right? Means I value only should be stored into the array. So this is first array is doing this, and along with that it has to give a message here that I value plus one tab space is stored. Okay, it is stored, and the thread has to wait for some time, try and catch some exception type, and e dot print stack trace. Right, this is C thread. Same way I'll take a D thread, and D thread has to access, right? So same D thread also has to refer the same. This is D thread, and this is ARR, this is D thread, and in this what it has to do, it should not store, right? It has to start from this and it has to print the value. It has to print the value. ARR of I is accessed, right? ARR of I is accessed, right? That's it. And it has to thread dot sleep for 500 milliseconds, and this also should thread dot sleep for 500 milliseconds, right? So two thread C and thread D is sharing the same resource, and resource is this array list. One thread is storing the element and another thread is accessing the element, right? Two thread, resource is string. Similar like previously what we did, two thread is sharing the resource A and A1 object only, and one is applying show method and one is applying this method. So currently I will put all this in comment. Now it is array. So what you have to do, create a C thread object, C thread, cth is equal to new C thread by applying ARR, and then D thread, dth is equal to new D thread with ARR. Two thread, right? Two thread with the same ARR, resource is same. And start I'll do here only, okay? This dot start